and welcome. We're very happy you're here this morning for the Dyson Company Senior Executive Thought Leader Forum. Dyson Company has been conducting these forums for 12 years now, and the purpose of these forums is to bring together business leaders and human resource executives to talk about a number of different issues, some of them civic, some of them about workforce development, some just about things that I'm personally very interested in. One of the things we like to do is brag a bit about our team members, and today I'd like to brag about Mark Gonska, who is the leader of our outplacement practice here at Dyson Company. Mark will be making a presentation next week to the entire global leadership of Riverside Investments. Riverside is a nationally known PE firm, private equity firm, based right here in Cleveland, led by Stuart Cole. And Mark will be talking about the challenges of doing separations in a humane and dignified fashion. And we're really proud of Mark getting this opportunity. So if you get a chance, pat him on the back, please.
I'm actually just this close to becoming a household name.
That's good, Mark. I like that. This morning, our speaker is Jeff Hoffman. Jeff is an entrepreneur's entrepreneur. I've actually heard him speak before at the John Carroll Entrepreneurs Association, and my wife, Kathy, who is a member of an entrepreneurs organization, Accelerator, that's a whole different group, heard Jeff speak last week when he dropped in as a guest speaker at another friend of his presentation. And you know, most of you who work in corporations don't get to rub shoulders with entrepreneurs very frequently. I've been fortunate in that as a member of the Entrepreneurs Organization, I get to hear entrepreneurs on a regular basis, and I rub shoulders with a lot of them. So I sort of have my feet in two different worlds. One, the corporate world that we deliver our services to, but then the entrepreneurial world where I tend to find people who have my same feelings about the marketplace, about new ideas, about making things happen. Now, I must say that I have not achieved my entrepreneurial goals, and at my age I probably won't, but I am very pleased that I get to be associated with these men and women. So let me tell you three interesting things about Jeff. Jeff and his wife decided to move to Cleveland to raise a child because they realized that this would be just a wonderful place for them to raise their son, correct? Yeah. And they moved here from Chicago. They could live, with Jeff's experience and background, he could live anywhere, but he chose Chagrin Falls. In 2012, Jeff decided to say yes to anyone who asked him to do something. So he has some very interesting stories about saying yes to everything. And finally, we have some people here, Jeff, who have produced and developed a film, so they know about red carpets. They haven't been on a red carpet yet, but they hope to soon. And Jeff has been on the red carpet because he received a Grammy Award. So please join me in welcoming Jeff. Let's give Jeff a hearty Dyson Company Thought Leaders welcome.
I don't know if we need to hear me okay? All right, we just have to wear this because he's filming back there. So good morning. You don't have to stop eating. A lot of clinking stopped, but you don't need to stop eating. I'll tell you really quick before we jump into this, my background very much in brief. I'm an engineer by trade. I went to a school that I could not afford. When I grew up out west and I wanted to go to Yale specifically, and I couldn't afford it, and I went there and they basically kicked me out of class because I didn't pay, which it turns out you actually have to do. So my first startup was as a second day of college, since I couldn't go to class anyway. I started a software company to fund my college education. So startups were never actually about money. I didn't even know the word entrepreneur. I can't even spell the word entrepreneur today without spell check. But it was about being very goal-driven. When there's something you want to get done, the skills of entrepreneurship are good skills to have to get things done. So that first company funded my education, and it was never about money, it was always about that. I had a brief corporate job. It just did not work out well for me. I'm sure the corporation would say the same. I'm pretty sure that someday if they do an autopsy, I have like 4,000 DNA strands of sarcasm, and apparently corporate America doesn't value that the way that I do. So I did not get along with my management, and not right or wrong, just a DNA thing. And I only did that a couple years and then left, and I've been doing startups ever since. So I've done 8 startups, mostly in tech, but we did the stuff in entertainment as well, film, television, and music. But most of them were consumer and tech. So I've kind of been up and down the range from small companies that we sold to big companies that we took public. The most notable one I was part of was Priceline.com. We started Priceline from a little table with a small group of people. The Priceline Group today does business in 190 countries, and it's a $70 billion company market cap, but we started that company from scratch. So we've been through growth and scale. And I have to tell you, I was just doing an interview a couple of weeks ago. I got the privilege they asked me to come open the London Stock Exchange. So I went over to London, I was doing a media interview, and they asked me what's the single most difficult thing in building and launching and building companies. And you know what everybody always expects you to say? Funding, right, for startups. The hardest thing, the battle every day is funding. It's not, and it's not what I said either, it's HR. Nobody that starts a company, for the most part, has any training whatsoever for that. They're engineers like myself, or they're marketing people with an idea, or whatever they are. It's a doctor that has a medical device, someone in the construction business that has a new technique. It's usually domain experts who've never been trained once in their life for anything to do with hiring or retaining or managing people in any way, shape, or form. So I just want you guys to know that was my answer. This TV interview the other day, I said the one thing I had no clue how to do was the HR part of the job, and it became the most difficult, especially when we went from 6 people to 3,000 or 4,000 employees, and I was still running the business. Obviously, not without an HR department, but nonetheless, that was one, the most important part, and 2, the hardest part for me all along to try to do, because people think, how hard can this be? And it turns out it's the hardest thing you have to do. So I just wanted to share that with you, since there's a lot of people in that business in here. So I'm going to do this in 2 parts today. We're going to talk about, and by the way, what Ralph mentioned, after 8 companies and all these years of building companies, I had just made a commitment to giving back, and we've been very, very blessed with our businesses. Like I mentioned, we sold some, we took some public. Obviously, Priceline was very successful. I made a pledge, commitment to giving back, and my give back was mentoring. I was trying to find something I can do. So in 2012, I said, look, I've done the CEO thing for my whole life since I was 24, and I'm going to take time off to give back. So the grand experiment, my social experiment, was for 1 year, I didn't tell anyone this, for 1 year, I was going to not say no to anybody that asked me for help anywhere. So that was my give back, right? Wherever the phone rings, if someone says, could you please help me, the answer will be yes for a whole year, which means I'll do no work and I'll never go to my office again, and I'll go wherever somebody calls. But it got interesting because one of the first calls was an email. Actually, I did a TED Talk, and somebody emailed me through the TED website, a young man in Senegal in a village, and said, things are tough in the villages of West Africa, could you give us some help? So the next thing I knew, I was on a plane to West Africa. And it turned out to be, by a long shot, the best year of my life. The year that I didn't make a dime, and I spent the whole year just helping other people. So I said, I'm going to turn this into a world tour of mentoring, because I'll learn. And it turned out, the world tour, it didn't look that big, the globe on my desk, but apparently the world is a little bit larger. It should have a thing like in a car mirror. Countries are larger than they appear on globe or whatever, but it took me 3.5 years. So for the last 3.5 years, I've been just on the road. I was recently down in Medellin, Colombia. Before that, I was in Tunis, in Tunisia, North Africa. I've just been mentoring people, youth. It's been actually entrepreneurs, business owners, youth groups, and women's groups have been kind of the interest groups that I've been spending my time with. And I do this as well, advising the White House, the State Department of the United Nations, so they all send me on a lot of trips. So the reason I'm telling you all that is I'm going to share with you stuff I've been learning. That's why I go out, that's why I'm here today. The more I'm out, the more people I meet, the more that I learn. It improves my knowledge base. So I'm going to share with you a lot of lessons learned from a lot of places. And I'm going to do this in sort of two parts. And some of these things are lessons that I've learned myself from our own companies. And some of them are just the blessings I've received being able to share time with a lot of people. Like I did a thing down in Florida that Jack Welch and I did. So needless to say, talking about management techniques, spending the day with Jack was a really great day for me to ask him a lot of questions. I do a tech event that I do, for example, with Richard Branson, and asking, how they built and run the Virgin companies. Every chance I get to be around people I can learn from, I do. So this is kind of the amalgamation of a lot of lessons learned that I'm going to share with you now. So the two parts are, first we're going to talk about just our changing world. And what's happening around us and how it's impacting everything. Then we're going to talk about the talent piece. Based on all that, what does today's talent look like? How do you attract them and how do you retain them? So I want to start with this, the fact that the pace of technology, every night while you sleep, some amazing thing happened, right, in the middle of the night somewhere, that when you wake up, you can't believe that thing exists. I mean, if you think about it, right, my phone is sitting over there. I do 15 different things on that. But you know what annoys me the most? When somebody calls me. I use my phone for everything but phone. I actually hate when the phone rings because it kills my productivity. I can't do 15 things anymore if I'm talking to someone on the phone. So it's ironic that my phone I like for everything but phone calls. When none of us predicted that. None of us really saw that coming. And the pace of change is so amazing. So I was given a speech recently in Seoul, Korea. The APEC nations are now focused on startups, and startup companies are driving so much new job growth, right? We all know the U.S. number. The number is a couple of years old now, but 80% of all net new jobs created in the U.S. in a 5-year period were created by companies less than 5 years old. And during that 5 years, which ended 2 years ago, 100%, sorry, that was gross, 100% of the net new job growth in this country for 5 years was created by companies less than 5 years old. So people have decided that we should have more startups because they're creating jobs. That's definitely a good thing. So the APAC nations, I go to Seoul every year to give an update on startups and entrepreneurs to them. So when I finished, I was thirsty. And I saw down the hall, this is in Seoul, Korea, I saw a convenience store. So I said, that's great, I'll go down and get something to drink. So as I was walking up and getting closer, I was looking to see what kind of drinks they had. Only when I got there, the store that had been there last time I was there was gone. There's no store anymore. This is a 3D representation of all the products on a screen. The whole store was replaced by screens. You can actually move these around, these products around, to look at the label and read the back of it, but there's no products there. It's just a screen. And what you do in Korea especially, getting products, they live on these subways, right? They take a long time and are very crowded, and leaving to go get food is inconvenient. So here's what they did. They replaced the store with this electronic 3D store on a screen. You take your phone and you say milk, cheese, bread. You point it at things and click. Then you get on the train and go home. When you get home, those things are waiting for you. So you just order dinner off the wall, whatever you think you need, and it's there when you get there, so you don't have to carry bags in the subway, and your milk doesn't get warm during the long trip home. The more amazing thing is this store is actually on the side of the train. It's in the subway station. So they're ordering their whatever they need, and they get on the train. It's just waiting there when they get home, fresh and cold, whatever they need. It just blew me away that was a store yesterday, and now it's a phone ordering screen. This kind of blew me away. If I was to ask you guys to name the world's most innovative companies, who is going to change the world around you and the way our customers and our employees interact, all of you would say Apple and Google, right? None of you would say Corning, the glass company. All of you would be wrong. So Corning invited me to come visit what they're up to. Corning, okay, the glass company, is going to change everything. They are developing an entire generation of smart glass. All right, I would have never seen this coming. So here is a live demo of it. These two girls are walking down the street. They see a coat in the store. When she touches the window, you talk about the next generation of window shopping, it immediately pulls a 3D image of the coat right to the window. She can spin the coat around. She can look at the prices, sizes. She can change the color. If she has scanned her image, which a lot of people are doing now for clothing, it will show the coat on her body, on an avatar of her body, so she can see what it will look like on her. It will tell her, if her friends have bought the coat and what they thought of it. By the way, when she touched the glass, guess what happened? It read her fingerprint. So the window knew who she was, and it immediately said, 2 of your friends bought the same coat and they loved it. It gets all that from your fingerprint. If she wants to buy it, it already knows who she is. So she can just hit the button and the coat's on her way to her house and she keeps walking without ever going in the store. Corning is developing smart glass to change the way we do everything. Innovations are coming from places that you never thought of. And that's probably the most important point. What people tend to do is look at their competitors. I see companies all the time. I say, how's your business doing? And they tell me what all their competitors are doing, and they say, we're beating all of them. We're fine. And in fact, the fallacy of that is the things that change the world most are not coming from your competitors. They're coming from places that we're not watching and we should be. Let me give you an example. Like I said, they're coming from places that we never saw coming. So I want to tell you this example. This was, I took a break from technology when I started the music company, and we were doing music tours. And this is a few years ago to place this, but at the time we were doing a tour I was on tour with a band called NSYNC. That was Justin Timberlake's band. At that time, NSYNC was the biggest band in the world, and I was on the road with the guys touring. We were doing tours then. And we went to, they were appearing in Madison Square Garden. And again, at that moment, NSYNC was the world's biggest band, so everybody was in Madison Square Garden. So they were getting ready to appear, and I was sitting with the guys in the world's biggest music store, world's biggest music distributor. And because NSYNC was a big deal then, the owners of the world's biggest music distribution company had flown in from London for this. So I'm sitting there with the owners, and I'm looking at their business, right? And I'm thinking about what they do, and I'm asking, what do you do? He said, we sell CDs. We sell more CDs than anybody in the world. That's our business. That's why people come here. That's what we do. And I started thinking about that, and I said, how are you doing? He said, we sell more CDs than anybody else in the music business. We're number one, so we're doing great. But here's the problem, as you guys could guess. They spent all their time looking at other music distributors. Here's what they failed to do. The music industry failed to invent the iPod. The music industry failed to invent iTunes. Apple made billions. So where did that billions come out of? The music industry's cut. Music industry lost billions. They never saw electronic music coming. They just saw each other and said, well, I can put in better carpets and better posters than the other store, right? They were looking at the industry the whole time, and the innovation did not come from the industry. Apple makes so much profit from the music biz that I was joking with them that they could just give away a free Mac with every purchase because the money they made was in music. And nobody, if I'd asked any of you, however many years ago, who controls the music business, you would have named the right companies. If I said, who's going to be the future of the music business, none of you would have said Apple Computer. They're not in the music business, they make computers. Again, what they were doing was looking at the tools, the technology, and the transformation and saying, whose industry can we go after next? The next big innovations don't come from your competitors. They're coming from places that we never saw coming. As you guys know, the music industry laid off at least 25% of its workforce when everybody lost their job when this came out. They should have been the ones thinking about it. So I'm going to give you some more insights to what's happening. It's equally frightening and exciting to me. I just recently spoke at, by the way, it's nice to do something right here in my hometown and with a small group of people I can talk to, because I spoke at Microsoft's conference and there were 7,000 people. It's not hard to get into a conversation with 7,000 people. But they just had a conference with their new CEO. That's him, Satya Nadella. In fact, I actually took that picture right before I went on stage. So I got a chance to hear from him Microsoft's new strategy. Satya is not Bill Gates by a long shot. Satya is not Steve Ballmer. The whole future, I could not believe what he told me was the plan for the future of Microsoft. Microsoft's whole business now is going to be robots, service bots, that are trying to figure out what people need and get it to them. So here was the demo they did, which just absolutely was jaw-dropping. I don't know how many of you ever use Skype, but I'm just going to use that as an example. It was 2 people chatting on Skype. So Microsoft is retooling its whole business to build robots, software robots, listening robots. So you're talking to your friend. We're having a discussion. And while we're talking, I say, you know what? We actually are thinking of going to the Hamptons this weekend. So the listening robot says, oh, Jeff's thinking of going to the Hamptons. So it immediately contacts the travel robot who is pulling up options in the Hamptons. It's looking to see if I've ever been there before. It's looking to see if I've ever rented a property. If not, what hotels do I like? It found a Westin. Then it's telling the airline thing. He's thinking of going Saturday. You should get some flight options. These are all robots, guys. Flight options ready. And then I say something like, I don't know, maybe we'll leave Friday. So now the scheduling robot is checking my calendar. And while I'm talking, a little thing pops up, said, yeah, this is your calendar. You can't go Friday. You got that staff meeting, but you could leave Friday night. All these robots are listening to everything you say and do and trying to help you and sell you things. Microsoft is focusing its whole company on building these things. It just blew me away. So if you think about it anyway, guys, every text you send, every email, everything you do is out there in the cloud anyway. So all they're saying now is we're just going to listen to you live and see what we can do for you or sell you. If I say, I got to get to that lunch meeting, my traffic robot's going to say, yeah, and don't go out down 9th Street. It's under construction. You want to go this way. I didn't ask it. It just told me that because yesterday I brought home, if you've seen those Alec Baldwin commercials, I brought home that Amazon Echo, the Alexa thing. I just got one to play with it, but it entertained the crap out of me last night because I asked her absurd questions and she's already programmed for that. I said, I'm bored, tell me a joke, and she told me a joke. She just said, okay, these two guys. I was like, wait a minute, this software robot actually got that thing. I asked her a bunch of questions. I said, are you married? And she said, no, I'm attached. And then she said, to the wall, which I actually thought was kind of funny. I said, wait, I'm having a conversation with the robot here. Let me show you the other technology they're building. This is HoloLens. By the way, here's kind of a cool thing that the first installation of it in the US happened to be in our backyard. Case Western is getting the first install of HoloLens. I'd never heard of this thing. Let me tell you what it is. It's Microsoft. You should look it up too. It's Microsoft told me about it. It's their new hologram technology. Okay? So if you look at this demo, this person's wearing the glasses. He's in his kitchen. The soccer game, there's no television. The whole TV set's a hologram. So as you walk from room to room, the big screen TV goes with you. If you go into the bathroom and sit down, the big screen TV goes with you. If you walk over to look out the window, the big screen TV goes with you. You never miss a play. You won't need a physical TV anymore. A holographic TV will have the same resolution, but it'll be wherever you are. So you won't have to hang them on the wall anymore. By the way, when he walked into the kitchen, if he looks at this cupboard, it knows the food's in there, so it pulls up recipes. It heard him talking about going to Maui, so it pulled up rental properties and weather for Maui. Okay? And over there you can see his to-do list follows him to plan his vacation. How will that affect things like retail? Check this out. You're online and you're shopping for a motorcycle. Now you have to have your phone there, but the hologram pops out and the 3D hologram of the motorcycle that you can touch and turn and spin and hear is on your desk while you're shopping for it. This stuff is going to change everything, right? So all these robots with holographic technology, are you kidding me? I'm a tech guy and I just stood there amazed at what they were doing. I just came back from London, a trip that I did with Steve Wozniak, the Apple founder with Jobs. In fact, Woz and I were on the phone last night convincing ourselves that one day it doesn't matter because robots are going to kill us all anyway. Woz and I believe that as soon as robots get smart and figure out that we are the problem, they're just going to kill us all. So he and I we literally decided what beer and what pizza we were going to have on the day that happens. So we're going to get a cold beer and an order of pizza on the day the robots kill everybody. But here's the thing. Steve Wozniak, obviously he started Apple with Steve Jobs, still works for Apple, right? And the big secret is Google tells you what they're doing. Google tells you about the self-driving car. All of the Apple projects are completely underground. And I looked at the stuff he was telling me, and I was blown away again. These tech companies are creating things that are going to change the way everybody does business and the way we live every single day, and people are never going to see it coming because they're looking at their competitors in the industry. Let me give you an example. So I saw a demo recently. This is part of why I travel around the world to see what's going on. Saw a demo recently of something called proactive engagement. Proactive engagement are these sensors. In the same way now, every time, this is the good news part, every time there's a crime, some security camera somewhere saw it, right? That's actually good news for catching criminals when people talk about sort of the Big Brother thing. But these cameras, they're installing sensors everywhere you go. So let me show you the demo that they showed me. They call this field proactive engagement. You are walking through the airport. You just get through security. There are sensors. This is a live demo that they showed me. These sensors are in the airport. They're looking for you. Again, this is artificial intelligence software. It's no people involved. The sensor, my phone lights up as soon as I get through security. And it says, yo, Jeff, slow down. I can see you're running. How? Because your phone has a gyro in it, right? Every phone does. So my phone, the sensor says, okay, slow down. I can see that you're running. You're at gate 11. Your flight's at gate 13, and it doesn't board for 47 minutes. I just checked. This is your personal assistant robot. And it says, by the way, I know that you love that orange drink at Jamba Juice, and there's a Jamba Juice at gate 14, so why don't you walk over there? FYI, I just printed you a coupon on your phone for the drink you like at Jamba Juice. And then it says, not sure if you still want to buy that Stephen King book, you had it on your to-do list, or check this out in the next version, I heard you talking about it. Your phone is saying, I heard you talking about the Stephen King book. There's a Hudson Booksellers at gate 16, and I can get you a coupon for that as well. And you got probably 10 minutes after Jamba Juice that you could walk there and still be to your gate on time. FYI, I've changed your seat to a window seat. Okay, your phone is doing all that because it's talking to all these sensors in the airport that are all sharing information about you, what you're doing, what you like, and where you're going. Unbelievable stuff. We all know about this, drones and delivery services. But again, everybody, companies you never thought. So in the same way I'm talking to you guys today, Volvo had its annual global meeting for all Volvo dealers worldwide. And they asked me to be this year's speaker on innovation. But they told me something that blew me away. Volvo, you know that delivery, like when you fill out a FedEx form, it says no PO boxes or whatever? It also says don't ship blood, but who was ever trying to do that, I wonder? Or blood, cash, there's 3 things it tells you not to ship. I think it's live animals, as if you would stuff one in the envelope. Anyway. The issue was, I guess you would have blood in that case. The issue is that you can't deliver stuff unless you have a physical address that it can recognize. So the delivery address type, sometimes when you use your GPS and you put in an address and it says, well, that's not technically the formal address, this is, should you use, you guys know what I'm talking about. Delivery addresses were the big thing. Here's the next generation. Volvo's new car, they haven't even announced this yet. I only know because I was their speaker. Volvo's new car has a new technology in it. It's the first car ever to be legally accepted by all the delivery systems as a delivery address. They put technology in it so the car can talk to all the systems, and the car is a recognizable delivery address. So check this out. I am driving along and I'm going to miss my flight, but it was a day trip and I don't have any clothes with me. So you know what? That sensor, that proactive engagement says, Jeff, based on the traffic and where you are in the car right now and your flight time, you ain't going to make it. So I'm going to get you a hotel room right now. You should steer over there. Because you're on a day trip, I'm guessing you don't have luggage. Remember, this is all my phone telling me this, not a human. So you know what's going to happen? If I'm driving a car that has delivery technology in it, it's going to tell me, pull over into this Shell station, and this thing is going to deliver me socks and underwear and a toothbrush. A little drone's going to come to the window of my car and say, here's some clothes so you can stay for the night. All that's real. All this stuff already works. When you see these technologies, it's just mind-boggling what they do. We all know about wearable technology, but I'll show you one that Branson showed me. So Richard Branson is working on one for his people. They'll be in the airport. So they're going to have customer service agents. Now they're going to have to compete with those proactive engagement robots I told you about. But so many of us want to actually speak to a human being. So they're wearing those glasses. Those glasses are face scanning, right? Because you know facial recognition is getting better and better. They're scanning everyone. She's just standing there. As people are walking through the airport, the glasses light up and say she's a Virgin Atlantic customer and she's about to go to London on our flight 12, and immediately starts downloading everything we know about you. So this time, she walks up, picks you out of the crowd, and says, good morning, Mrs. Dice, and I understand you're on a way to gate 12 for our London flight. I've already adjusted your seat. We know that you like, you know, this kind of coffee, so why don't we walk over and get some? They're just finding their customers, welcoming them, seeing if they need anything. She'll be carrying extra supplies, things that you might like. Again, it's amazing. So Branson says he wants his people to just be able to look at a crowd of people and immediately know who are the customers in this crowd, what business have you done, when are you doing business with us next, how did you rate us? Everything that they could pull offline about you, real time in her eyeball while she's chatting with you. Absolutely amazing for wearable technology. So I want to give you guys a technique though, because it seems so overwhelming, right? How do you keep up with all this? And here's the thing, you can't, so quit worrying about it, right? You'll never keep up with all of it. But there is a technique. Here's something that I started to notice. When I was talking to some of the world's most successful and innovative people, here was my question. What is it that all those people are doing that everyone else isn't? Why are some people always innovative and always coming up with great new ideas? What are they doing? Because they must be doing something different than everybody else. So I've been studying that my whole life. And it turns out they are. Okay? And one of them is they process a much broader slice of the world than everybody else does. And let me explain that. If you're in the healthcare biz, what do you work on all day? Healthcare. That's your business. If I said to you, who wants to go to the banking conference? You would say, Jeff, we're in healthcare. We don't do banking. You wouldn't go to the bank industry conference. You're in healthcare. If I gave you a magazine called Retail Malls Illustrated, you would say, Jeff, what part of healthcare do you not understand? I don't care how they build malls. Okay? So therein lies the missed opportunity. I noticed that these really successful people have this broader funnel than everyone else. And I'm going to explain the technique that I came up with to try to do that. For example, when I am spending time with somebody like Richard Branson, sometimes he goes off course and he starts asking seemingly random questions about something non-related, right? And I used to wonder what he was thinking about, but now I'm going to tell you what he was thinking about. These people are trying to look at a broader world to see what other industries had great ideas that you could be the first person to bring to your industry. So let me tell you what I do. I created this technique. The word means nothing. I just call it info sponging, for lack of a better term. But let me tell you what I do. Every single day, I do this. It takes 10 minutes. That's it. I do this every single day. If you can't do it every day, do it once a month. And every day I spend 10 minutes and I learn one new thing a day that I have no reason to learn. For 10 minutes in the morning when you get up, that's when I do this. No email, no text, no phone. For 10 minutes, you do not work for your company. You do not work in your industry. So for 10 minutes, you're not in the HR industry. You're not in your company. You have to pick one quick thing to read every day that has nothing to do with what you do. All right? And so that's what I do. I just follow my curiosity. I'm going to give you an example. I click on some story and read it. And I write down one sentence of what I learned. Okay? And I'm going to show you how this works in a second here. I just learn one new thing a day that I don't even know why I'm learning. And then I write down one sentence. And each day, think of it this way. Each new thing you learn is like a puzzle piece. So if I gave you one piece of a puzzle and said, what is this thing? You'd say, I don't know. I have one piece of a 1,000-piece puzzle. I have no idea what it's going to be. If I gave you 2 or 3 pieces, you still don't know what this puzzle is going to be. But if I gave you a new piece from that puzzle every day and you pushed them around your desk, one day you'd call me all excited. And you'd say, oh, I figured it out. It's going to be a castle in Ireland. I can see what it's forming. That is what we do with knowledge. That is what I do with info sponging. I learn one new thing about the world around me every day, and I look at these things, and I try to see if I can be the first person in my industry to make something of it. So let me tell you the real example. One day for my info sponge, the article, there was a story about distressed inventory. I don't even know what distressed inventory is. Remember, your goal is to learn something you don't need to know, not something in your industry. So I clicked on it. Distressed inventory, that sounds interesting. I read about it. I don't sell distressed inventory. I don't really know what it is. So I read a story, and at the end, what it said was that if I sell these clickers, and I have 100 of them, and I sell 90 of them, I can't unload the last 10 for some half-price deal to get them off my shelf because he's a platinum customer. He bought 20 of those 90 at full price, and I sold 10 just to somebody for half the price to get rid of them. I'm killing my pricing channel. So what I wrote down was distressed inventory requires a price-shielded distribution channel to liquidate. What does that mean? I have no idea, but I wrote it down. Okay, then I looked at those puzzle pieces. But let me tell you what happened. When I went to bed that night, I was thinking distressed inventory. And then I pulled leaf back through because one of my info sponges from another day, let me tell you what I wrote down. That day I had written down something I read. Actually, I saw this one on the news. Every single day, 600,000 airplane seats fly around the United States empty. I remember thinking, is that distressed inventory? Is there a connection there? Did I just fit 2 puzzle pieces together? There's 600,000 empty airline seats flying around the country, and distressed inventory needs a price-shielded channel. Could those 2 things be related? Who knows? Now, another time, I was reading a story about perishable commodities. The story, guys, remember, learn one new thing every day or every week that you don't need to know. I read a story about how to sell fruit. And what it was explaining, I'm into the fruit business. Why do I care? Because I'm trying to learn, add another piece to my puzzle. What it said was that when you have a perishable commodity, you have a price urgency as you get closer to the date and a positioning urgency. What that means literally, what it said was, a bright green banana, you can leave it on the shelf, you got time. As the banana gets browner, you need to lower the price and move it to the front because you need people to get those bananas now before they're completely unsellable. That's what it said. So that's what I wrote down, that perishable commodities need to have this inverse pricing proportion. As they get older, the urgency increases and the price decreases because you only got 2 days left to sell this banana versus 7 days ago. That's what I wrote down. Don't know what that means, but guess what I went to bed thinking? Is there something out there more perishable than a banana? Sure, an airplane seat. Because as soon as you close the door, all the goods are spoiled. An airplane lasts all week. Excuse me, a banana lasts all week. Airplane seats spoil as soon as the door is closed. So you can already see where this is leading. One day I was reading a story about dynamic pricing, right, as well. I can just take you to the day where we're all sitting in Jay Walker's office. He's the guy who came up with the original idea up in Connecticut, pushing these puzzle pieces around, and guess what we came up with? We had a team of people that invented a dynamically priced distress inventory perishable commodity distribution system that today is a $70 billion company. Priceline would not exist were it not for this process of saying, what are all the great ideas the rest of the world has, and can I be the first one to figure out how to use them in my industry? What we did was apply brand new concepts to an old industry, travel, and we became, in fact, I think today, Priceline is still the world's largest provider of online travel. Again, it's in 190 countries now. Why? Because we didn't look at the travel industry, we looked at everything else in the world. So info sponging is a way for you guys to keep up. Just challenge yourself to learn one new thing a day, write it down, and then every day or every week, look at all the things you've written down, all the puzzle pieces, and just say, is there something here that I can connect these dots in a way no one else ever has? That's what the innovators, I notice, do all the time. So let's move to part two. To deliver those, let's say you do have a great innovative idea. By the way, I love this story because it's an Ohio story. The drive-through lane in fast food was invented in Ohio in a hamburger joint. I forgot the name of it. But the guy that created it did not get it from the fast food industry. When they were trying to innovate, he was not looking at French fries because you can't heat grease any hotter, and he wasn't looking at the Diet Coke machine because they splatter if you fill them faster. So if he'd looked at the fast food industry for a way to beat his competitors, he wouldn't have found one. But he didn't. This is a true story. This gentleman got in his car and drove around to see what banks were up to. And he was driving, and the fourth bank he went to, he couldn't park because the parking lot was filled with pickup trucks, wood, hammer, nails, and carpenters. And he said, what are you guys doing? And the bank, this was also a bank in Ohio, said, oh, he came up with this brand new cool innovation. He said, what do you call it? And they said, we're going to call it the drive-through lane. So the first drive-through lane in banking history was here in Ohio. The first drive-through lane in fast food history did not come from anyone in the fast food industry. That guy said, man, that's a cool idea. We should do that at fast food. They implemented it at their restaurant, which was later acquired by McDonald's because of their innovation of the drive-through window, an idea they stole from banking. That's what we should all be doing all the time, is looking to see what's coming next. So once you have those ideas, how do you deliver them? And the answer, of course, is this. That, again, as an entrepreneur, people always say this, you know, what is the thing entrepreneurs need most? What's the hard thing to find? People say funding. Absolutely not. Human capital is far scarcer than financial capital. I know lots of people that can write checks. The hardest thing ever to find is people you would build your whole company around, is this human capital piece. Talent is the scarcest resource out there. So let's talk about that. And this is what's important. No matter how you've done HR, now we're going to talk about this millennial generation. We were talking at our table about the fact that the one thing millennials really, really hate is being called millennials. That word irritates them very, very much. Why? Because it's a generation that does not want to be grouped and categorized. When you say millennials, it's implying something. Actually, it turns out many of the categorizations are true. They just don't want to hear it. So we don't use that term really because they don't like it. But let me sort of tell you a little bit about the research that we've been doing as well. I visit schools and universities everywhere. I spend a lot of time with young people and working with United Nations youth and traveling to a lot of these countries, but I visit, like I said, high schools, middle schools, colleges, everywhere as well. But we've actually done some intentional things. Like I'm on the board of Semester at Sea, And when we go to sea, I have 750 college students, 750 millennials from 200 and something cities around the country on a ship that were just sort of all held captive, so I have a great research lab. We did a grand experiment during this time that I've been sort of taking off. We had this crazy idea to test this generation's desire to make change, to fix problems that they've seen. By the way, what they'll tell you is all the things we screwed up. From Bernie Madoff to Enron to AIG to the bailouts to Occupy Wall Street. You know what the silver lining, and as an entrepreneur I always look for the positive, the silver lining to that cloud is the disillusionment we created a generation of people that said that ain't right. And we're not going to live that way, and the things you guys did driven by greed or whatever they want to say, we're not the world we want to inherit, so we're going to fix it. So the disillusionment led a lot of people to say we're going to make change, which is good for this generation. They saw all that and they found it distasteful, and they don't want that world, so they're making changes. So we decided to test their ability, their desire to make change with their global, I think this is the next slide I have anyway, with their global, remember this is the first generation in human history raised entirely on technology, right? They don't know anything else. It's the first generation in history that was raised with social media. What does that mean? It used to be wherever you lived, that's all you knew. If you lived in Poland or behind the Iron Curtain back then, or wherever you lived, your whole world was what was visually and audibly accessible to you. Today, they're all connected. So I took a tour of all the Arab Spring countries, right? Obama sent me to Egypt and other places. In fact, at the end of that, I actually went and visited Israel. And I went around to try to understand in all these regions, but especially the Arab Spring countries, what caused the revolts. And you know what it was? Social media. You know what the Egyptians, we're actually working on a film about this. The Egyptians, we've been titling it the Facebook Revolution. And the reason, that won't be the real name, but the reason for this is social media. What happened was people that lived in places that used to think that's just the way life is, were talking to all their friends online elsewhere. Said, wait a minute, your country lets you do that? Your government doesn't do this? Social media drove all this social change because they said, hold it. Why are we putting up with this crap when you guys don't have to do that where you live? If they hadn't connected to each other online, the world wouldn't have changed the way it did. They will no longer accept governments and oppression and all the things they used to accept because they now can talk to people all over the rest of the world and find out how they do it and how they live. We've never had a generation like this before. So all the rules are changed. Everything is different. So the experiment we did was we got this crazy idea. What if we sailed a ship around the world filled with millennials, this new workforce, and exposed them to all the world's problems and built a lab on the ship so they could launch companies? What would they do? So guess what? We actually did this crazy thing 2 summers ago. We chartered a research ship. We sailed around the world. We got millennials from all over. They had to submit we're doing this again next summer. They had to submit a 3-minute video. Tell us why you should be on this ship. No rules, no guidelines. And we picked people and we sailed around the world, literally sailed the ship. It took almost 4 months. They had to give up their whole summer around the planet, stopping at countries all over, showing them the way the rest of the world lives because everyone else isn't as lucky as we are right here in Northeast Ohio, and seeing what they would do about it. And they were mixed with young people from other countries and cultures they've never met. And they formed teams, launched companies. It's a story for another day, but it was amazing. But it was a floating research lab. So a lot of what I'm sharing with you came from that. So let's talk about this first. The fact that the way we employ people in the first place is such a one-way street. So I'm going to tell you a story. This guy, because here's how we hire people. We meet, you and I have an exchange. I give you my resume, you give me a job description. That's the exchange. What is it? What you're telling me is if you can do the things on this sheet, the job description, I will give you money. And as long as you keep doing these things, you will keep getting money. But if you don't, you're getting fired. And I say, here's a list of reasons, my resume, why you should give me the chance to do these things to get this money. Okay? So it's around the job description, and the resume is how we hire people. Not unreasonable, just not reflective of how it works now. So this guy calls me one day that wants me to work for his company. He doesn't know that I have my own company. And he gives me his pitch. That's what we do when we hire people. Here's what our company does. Here's our strategic plan. Here's our product development plan. Here's a job we need as a product developer that we want you to fill. So in reality, what you're saying is, me, you do this for me. This is what we are trying to achieve, and we need you to do this work for us to achieve it. When the guy was done giving me his pitch, I said, let me see if I understood you. I said, if I got you right, you want me to work 8 days a week so that someday you can sail off in a big boat. And he said, okay, fine, kind of. And I said, okay, I was being sarcastic. I said, that's not very motivating. You told me if I do my job, these are the results you and your company will get, which is great for you and your yacht because you own the company, but I'm not sure why I'm... So I was driving back thinking, how unmotivating was that? And then I thought, uh-oh, what do I do? And I'll tell you what I do, the same thing. I say, here's my company, here's our goals, here's the job we need help with. If you could do that, it'll help our company achieve our goals. And I thought, geez, I'm doing the same thing. So I'm going to cut to the chase and sort of tell you what the evolution was. The first thing I never ask someone to see their resume. That is not the start of a conversation. And I don't tell them the job description. Here's what I've learned, that making employment a two-way street is absolutely critical to this generation. We're going to talk about a few points, but this is one. And let me tell you where I learned this just really quickly. I sold one of my companies. I was doing a television interview. When I was on TV, the woman said, she had our sales growth, our revenue, our profits, our margins. She said, your company, these are amazing accomplishments. Which one are you most proud of? They were all numbers and money. And while I was driving to the TV station, the woman that ran HR for me all those years called me. She said, Jeff, oh my God, you got to hear this. I'm so excited. I said, what? And she said, I just verified this. She said, from the day you started the company to the day you sold it, not one person that works for you ever quit. I said, wait, what? She said, no one's ever quit the company in all these years. I said, how could that possibly be? So on the way to the TV station, I started calling people. I said, how come you guys never quit? And they're like, is this a problem? Do you want us to quit? I said, no, I just don't understand. And I said, just tell me, because whatever I did by accident, I'll do it on purpose next time. I don't know why no one ever leaves here. And there must be something we're doing right. Tell me. So now I'll tell you what the answer that they told me was. I started thinking about, after that guy that wants to buy a big boat thing. So the first question I ask every interviewee when I'm sitting with someone is this. I say, tell me something in your life. Tell me one thing in your life you absolutely must do. If you look back and you say, my life was a success, tell me something that has to be done for that to happen. So the first time I did this was a guy named Chris. And I said, Chris, before we talk about the job, your resume or anything, I said, just tell me one of your dreams, something that you have to get done that's important to you to make your life a success. And he said, oh, Jeff, that's easy. Buy my mom a house in Florida. I said, Chris, tell me the story. And Chris said, Jeff, we grew up in eastern Pennsylvania. We didn't even have a mobile home. We had an Airstream trailer. It was that tiny. It was so old it was rusted. He said, we had only me, my mom, and my sister, no father, and one blanket. I said, why didn't your mom go to Goodwill? And he said, because of her pride. She didn't want people to know how poor she was, so she wouldn't ask for blankets or jackets or food. And I said, what did you do? He said, I would lay there at night and with the one blanket in winter. And he said, if I put the blanket over mom, my sister froze. If I put the blanket over my sister, my mom froze. If I put the blanket over the holes in the trailer, the snow didn't come in, but we all froze. I said, how did you get through the night? He said, I dreamed every night of my entire childhood that one day I will work hard enough to buy my mom, buy outright cash, no mortgage, a house in Florida where she can spend the rest of her life as a thank you for everything she did for me. So I will tell you what I did. I went home and I printed this picture of a house in Florida and I stuck it in the wall. And somebody said, what's that? And I said, it's the reason Chris works here. What's yours? And I went to every employee and said, tell me something you have to do with your life. And if you go to my offices now, there's pictures up all over that seem random. They're not random at all. They're the reason they work at our company, not my reason, their reason. So let me tell you what happened. One day, everybody's going home, and I said, see you guys tomorrow. And they said, what are you doing? And I said, oh, I'm working on the porch outside Chris's mother's house. Dead silent. Everybody got it. People started coming back in. I said, what are you doing? And they said, Jeff, all of us can build that house quicker than one of us can. So let me tell you something. Every day I walked by and I would see that picture of that house, and I would remember why Chris is here. So by the way, he left his corporate job because we did the math. I said, there's no right or wrong. Your corporate job is a good job and you have a good paycheck. I'm a startup. I can't really pay you right now. But we did the math. And I said, on the flip side, how long will it take you on this job? So we estimated his annual raises, his salary, cost of living, what he could afford to set aside to put aside enough actual cash to buy this house outright for his mom. And we figured it'd be like 34 years. And I said, okay, here's another option. You can do that. And I said, you come over here. You kick butt. You're betting on yourself. We build this product. Everybody buys the product. Somebody buys the company. And on that path, when could you buy your mom a house? And we figured 5 years. We actually sold the company in 4 years in that case. But let me tell you what happened. At the end of 4 years, we sold the company. I gave everybody their cut. Everybody, to the receptionist, everybody that worked for me, I gave a cut of that because they all had one of these on their wall. I got to tell you, this is one of the coolest days of my entire life. We flew Chris's mom down to Florida. We set her up because she thought that that was my house. And she said to her son, you flew me to Florida to show me that your boss bought another house. She said, can I please go home? Right? She was very upset. We live in a rusted trailer and you flew me to Florida to show me your boss's house. And they had no furniture because they lived in a trailer. So we bought all new furniture in this house. So she looked at it. Obviously, it's your boss's house. It's all new furniture. But what happened next was one of the best moments of my life. She said, take me to the airport. And I said, look, I'll take you to the airport, but you just got to do me a favor. And she said, what? And I said, I just want you to come look at my bedroom. And she said, okay, this is getting weirder by the minute. She said, she said, son, your boss was trying to take me into his bedroom. Save me. Right? And he said, Mom, if you want to ride back to the airport, just do what he says. And she said, fine, I'll look at your bedroom, but then take me to the airport. Now, sorry, this gets me emotional even today. We walked down the hall, and what we'd done through photographs was we moved every item of her bedroom exactly as it was to the new bedroom, to the new house while she was traveling. So when we opened the door, and the moment his mother, guys, it's not even my mom, and I was crying hysterically. We opened the door, and she looked, and she said, this is my house, isn't it? That moment where we all broke down in tears was one of the best moments of my life. And again, it's not even my mom. I couldn't wait to get back to work and say, all right, who's next? Because let's go fulfill somebody else's dream in this company. Not only is that the reason the employees never quit, because they said, Jeff, you make this a two-way street. We have a partnership with you. Our goals are as important to you as your goals are. I didn't realize that. I was just doing what felt natural, and it felt so good when we did this. So every employee has something they care about that you should be helping them achieve, and that's really how we built them. You all know this, that the bottom line is that it's the servant leadership model, the inverted pyramid. I used to think people work for me, I work for them. Your job is to build a culture. Your job as a leader is not really to run the company. Your job is to find people smarter than you in every area and then get out of the way. Your job is to build. I spent my time not being the boss anymore. I spent my time being the chief culture officer. My job was to build a place where the best people in the industry that could work anywhere they want all want to work at your company and no one ever wants to leave. That's what you should be writing on the wall as your goal. Your goal is to build a place that the best people all want to work and nobody ever wants to leave. I figured that out later, looking backwards. I'll just say one last piece on this. I used to write the column on innovation for Inc. magazine. And one day they said, Jeff, write about talent, acquiring and managing and retaining talent. And the headline of my article, if you Google it, it's still out there on Inc.com. The headline of my article was hire the best and pick up their laundry. And people said, what? And I just want to tell you the story. I was out of town. My team called me. And they said, Jeff, we met this 20-year-old whiz kid. And I said, guys, programmer, web developer. I said, don't wait for me, just hire him. So they hired him. When I got back in town, now this kid did not know that I was the CEO or the owner of the company. We'd not met. So he didn't know who I was. So I got back to the office. I go down the hall. They're all in the conference room working. I said, hey, can I get you guys anything? And remember, the kid has no idea that I'm the CEO or the owner or anything. And what I meant was pizza or Diet Coke, the fuel of startups, right? But when I said, can I get you guys anything, the 20-year-old newest employee said, yeah, could you go pick up my dry cleaning? I'm kind of busy. And everyone in the room did this. Like, that's the CEO. You can't ask this. The 20-year-old kid should not be asking the CEO to go pick up his dry cleaning. So they're all staring at me to see what I'm going to say. And I said, sure, where's the ticket? And he said, it's pinned up on the wall of my cubicle. I said, I'll see you guys in 20 minutes. So I'm walking out, and my VPs come running out. They said, you're picking up some kid's dry cleaning? And I said, listen. I said, that kid is the most brilliant designer I've ever met. I said, that kid is right now designing products that will win every award in our industry, which we did actually win the Best Product Award that year. I said, that kid is going to win us all new customers. He's going to make everybody in this building rich and famous if that's what you guys care about. And I said, so not only am I going to pick up the kid's dry cleaning, But if you need me when I get back, I will be outside washing his car. That is your job as a leader, is to nurture and care for people that are smarter than you anyway, that can do things you can't, and that will make your team win. When I realize that, I'm not the boss anymore. I'm the caretaker. I'm the nurturer. Take care of people. Help them build a house for their mother. Pick up their dry cleaning. Whatever it takes to get the job done so the best people want to all work there for you. That's what I found out later, why no one ever quit. I've had people that work for me for 4 companies in a row. As we sell them, they all keep coming back. But now I'm doing it on purpose because now I understand what they need. So the last section I want to talk about is this. Hiring these people, especially this next generation. Because we've been doing this. I have hired personally thousands of people as a CEO, but now I've been spending all this time with this whole next generation. If you've seen those numbers, they're about to be 75% of the workforce and the buying public and everything else. So how do we hire the next generation of worker? These things are really, really important. They do not, jobs traditionally, paycheck was the driver. But here's what I did with all my employees one day. I said, go up to the board and I want you to write an equation. And they said, what? And I said, I want you to write an equation called QOL. They said, what's that? I said, quality of life. I said, I want you to tell me all the things that determine the quality of your life. What makes you a happy, fulfilled person? Of course, their paycheck is up there, but none of them wrote less than 10 things. Their paycheck is one of 10 things that make them happy and make them fulfilled, right? When I left Yale, I had a bunch of friends that became investment bankers, all making $1 million a year and absolutely miserable. We'd get together and they'd say, man, I hate my life. And people would say, so I guess the $1 million a year didn't buy happiness? And they said, I repeat, I hate my life. So what's the equation? So I literally asked people to write down their quality of life equation. What are all the things that make you happy and fulfilled? And let's start to think about that. But this is huge. This generation, all the data says they value experiences. You know what? They value experiences over things. It's a generation that if they had a choice of buying a thing, another car, a better car, whatever it is, a better TV set, or the chance to go with their buddies to Costa Rica and make memories for the rest of their lives, they'll take the experience. They value experiences over things. So the paycheck isn't the driver. The experience is. They're not going to say, how much are you paying me? They're going to say, what experience will I have working here? If you see those movies like the internship ones about Google, that's all about the experience that they have. That is why those companies have things like slides instead of staircases in their company, just the overall experience. So what they want to know is not the paycheck and the job description, what's the experience going to be like? They care about values, right? They care about your values very, very much. When I work here and you make profits, what are you doing with them as a company? Where does this company spend its money? Where do you as an owner or a manager spend your money? What does this company value? Do they care that you're profitable? Yes, but they care more about what you do with the profit. Okay? They want to know that they're working for a company that has values and is contributing something positive. If your values are not part of your hiring process, they better be. Because if all you talk about is job descriptions, goals, and salaries, they're not interested. They want to know your values. The owner of the company making a statement that my family and I launched this company because we wanted to have this impact on the city of Cleveland, and here's what we do with some of the profits that we make. They care about your values. By the way, here's probably the biggest one. You probably already know this, but I'm going to share it. The career economy is over. We now live in the gig economy. What does that mean? You know what the old conventional wisdom was? I'm not going to hire Amy because I don't think she's going to stay here long. I'm not going to invest in training her and she's going to leave in 3 years. That's what we used to do. Today's talent will never again commit their career to you. So if what you say is I'm not investing in people that will only be here for 3 years, then guess what pool you're in? You're in round 6 of the draft. You're getting the C talent because the A talent doesn't have to put up with that. The A talent knows that they can work somewhere, do an amazing job for 3 years, and then go get another experience somewhere. So you know what the smart companies are doing? They're designing around gigs or projects. So let me tell you how Apple and Google hire as an example. What Apple does is they don't say, I'm not going to train you unless you commit the career. They say, we're going to launch the iPhone 7. We want to hire you to be on the iPhone 7 team. That means you have to commit 3 years. When the iPhone 7 is done and you do a great job, we're going to try to offer you another project, but we recognize that you might go off somewhere else and go work at a different company, join a startup. They are project-based. They are not career-based. They will not make a commitment to their career. They will make a commitment to a really cool product you're launching, market you're attacking, project you're doing, especially if some of the profits are going to build a park, are going to fund a charity, are doing something that they actually can look back and say, my hard work, that built that park in East Cleveland. Because our company put money into that, because of my hard work is why we're profitable. That matters to them. They are project-based. They'll call it the gig economy now, right? They want gigs, they don't want careers. They might stay with you their whole life, but they're going to do it project at a time. So quit saying, if your attitude is, I won't hire you, if I won't train you if I know you're not going to spend your career here, you will never get the talented people again. Companies that say, I understand, I just need you to build this product, give us 3 years and we'll talk again in 3 years, they'll do that. And they want to know what experiences they're going to have, what values they're going to create. It's the gig economy now, and the most talented people will not come to companies that demand anything more about that. What else do they care about? I love this. You're trying to hire somebody for a job. You know what they asked me? They asked me, tell me about the restaurant scene in Cleveland. And people said, what's the music scene in Cleveland? Are there very many music clubs? Is there jazz? I was like, do you want to know about the job? They said, not really, not unless I want to live in Cleveland. I don't really care about your company or your job unless I know I'm going to like living there. So it's backwards. They don't accept the job first and then say, we better investigate Cleveland. What they say is, what's the culture? What's the dining? What's the music? Is there a downtown area? Is downtown developed? Where do all the other millennials live? Are there parks? Are there bike paths? They care about something much bigger than their paycheck. They care about this city and what money we're spending to rebuild it and where we're doing it. They care about the sports teams. They care about the symphony orchestra, all this stuff. They ask, I couldn't believe how many times they've been asked if there are bike paths and jogging trails. For people that haven't even read the job description yet. They want to be part of the community. They want your company, corporate challenge, a softball team, Habitat for Humanity. Do something more than just make yourself another dollar. They'll join the companies that participate in the community, have activities, and by the way, they care a lot about diversity because of their experiences. They want to meet people different than them, and they want to experience the world in some non-homogeneous way. So celebrate your diversity, celebrate your community, celebrate your activities. Check this out. This is really subtle, and I just added this slide because I just reached this conclusion. This is something subtle but interesting. This generation was raised on Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, Twilight, The Walking Dead. Do you know what all those are? They're stories with characters that have plots. They have a story arc. They're grown up that way. So you know what they want to know? What is the story of your company? They literally want to know your story. What's the story arc? How are you launching this company? Where is it growing? What are you trying to be when you grow up? Tell a story of what the company is about, how it's growing, where it's going. They don't want a company that just drones on. They want a company with a story, okay? If you have a story, tell the story of your company, past, present, and future. They want to be part of a story. They want to look back one day and say, I was part of that. I was a character in that 7-part Harry Potter company. They want to be a character in a story. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in a very positive way. Your company should have a history and a future and a story, and they want to be part of it. And lastly, they want a brand. They want to work for a company they're proud of, a company that actually stands for something. That's really important. So what does your brand start up? So I'll end here. Let me just summarize. The world is changing very, very fast. You guys, we got to keep up with it. I gave you that technique of info sponging, and today's next generation of employees are a completely different breed. They care about a set of things that you need to care about and you need to show that you care about. They care about the community, they care about your values, they care about the story of your company and the future of your company. Thank you guys very much for having me today.
Wow, huh? We usually end at 9, but who's going to shut that down, right? Jeff, thank you so much. Gosh, just lots of life lessons as well as leadership lessons there. One of the things that occurred to me is that the puzzle exercise you mentioned, that also makes for, we found, more robust conversations as well, and makes us more robust as people. We're out meeting people like you every day. We're at DICE, we read a book periodically with the team, and it makes, again, for more robust conversations. But thank you, Jeff, again, so much. Because we are running a little late, I just want to touch briefly on a couple of upcoming events at DICE & Company. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and she said, Greg, I'm scared to death. And I said, why? She said, our daughter's about to graduate, she doesn't have a job lined up yet, and we're afraid that she's going to come home with us. So we have a cure for that. It's called the Dyson Company Job Search Boot Camp on June 15th. And there should be information on the table. Mark Gonska, again, our household name in public speaking in terms of career issues, does a great job of pumping the students, the young people up. We call them emerging professionals. So June 15th, send us a note if you know somebody either at home or in your network or your network's network that would benefit by that. Then on July 12th, we have our next Thought Leaders Forum. Many people in here are involved in change management and transition. How's this for a new job? Jackie Chisholm took over an agency, the largest community action agency in the state, after her predecessor had been put in jail for fraud. So Jackie's going to talk about how she used her life and work lessons to and applied them as she's taken on this agency to transition. So again, July 12th, mark your calendars. There's some other information about thought leaders. Again, let's all thank Jeff for such a great